Beargrease is the first sled dog race of the Krill Pet Arctic World Series. After countless hours of training, the mushers and dogs will finally get to prove what they're made of.
I do have actually my best 12 here, so yeah, they're ready to go.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
But only one can win.
It's a tough race with the hills, good competition.
He knows if I'm close, we'll be racing.
You can never be sure, as anything can happen.
Man, he's looking like he's doing a really good job with them. I'm worried about that team.
The race escalates as they close in on the finish line.
It could go either way right now, right? It could be a fight for the victory.
It's going to be right down to the finish.
We'll witness the journey. Just like the first settlers did more than 100 years ago, mushers and dogs must overcome the distance along the rocky shoreline of Lake Superior. North of Duluth in Minnesota is the start of the John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon. It runs 455 kilometers, or 300 miles, along the shoreline of Lake Superior, making it the longest race in the lower 48 states. Severe temperature changes, heavy rainfall, and violent storms made and still makes it extremely difficult to travel along the shoreline. In the late 1800s, this area only had a footpath and little communication to the outside world. John Beargrease and his brothers took on the tough job to carry out the mail, using sled dogs. With their successful delivery, the population and economy stabilized, and permanent towns made their mark on the landscape. Beargrease was made to honor the memory of the pioneering winter mailman. You will now witness the first out of 4 races in the Krill Paws series that cover some of the world's most exotic sled dog races in Minnesota, Norway, Russia, and in Alaska. The John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon is a challenging race. Its rocky terrain offers a lot of up and down hills. The race starts at Billy's Bar and goes through 6 checkpoints before the finish in Grand Portage.
We are doing wonderful here on this Sunday morning in Duluth, Minnesota, as we get prepared now for the 36th time, the start of another Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon.
It is a lot going on right at the start of that race, right? You have all this stuff you have to get prepared. And again, the mushers have been preparing for this for months, specifically for this race, but really for years. Training themselves as a musher, developing these dogs since they were little puppies, and then the last several months kind of tuning them up for this one race. So this is a big moment for a lot of them.
And Dallas Seavey should know. At age 25, he became the youngest musher ever to win the 1,000-mile Iditarod back in 2012. 2 years later, he won it again. This guy's now won 4 Iditarods and finished the Norwegian Finnmark race, and yet he's only in his early 30s.
The dogs, they're excited because they're going to get to go running. They're always excited, whether it's in the yard or a race. But there is an extra little element when you have a lot of fans and vehicles and more hubbub going on. So it's stressful for the dogs and exciting for the mushers.
We have 5 former champions running in the Beargrease this year. The last 4 years, you've got Ryan Anderson, Schroeder, Ryan Reddington, and Blake Frecking, the defending champion. And it's very possible that one of those 4 teams could win it. Is there pressure on you? You're the defending champion. And so,
of course, there's some pressure, but it's a whole nother year. It's a whole different team. So I don't think about last year at all. Today's a new day. It's a new season. So
yeah.
So what are you feeling this morning? What's the atmosphere like for you?
For me, I'm excited but also calm. I'm happy to get out on a trail, and actually this year I feel interestingly calm, which is nice. Just calm, content. I feel prepared. I feel confident and happy.
We know Ryan Reddington well, of course, of Iditarod fan and a former champion here. He's one of 5 former champions running this year in the Beargrease. So you're about to take off here within the next hour. How are you feeling, and where's the head here?
I'm feeling very good. Good rest last night, and been very good morning, and I'm ready to race. Feeling good.
Tell us about the team. How good are they? Are they mature? Where are they at in the life cycle?
Yeah, they're mature, but I do got them. I got another team in the marathon, Keith Eiley, another former champ. Yeah. That they're about. There are a lot of good dogs in his team too. So my Iditarod team is going to be a mixture of both of those 2 teams. So it's going to be a super team when I put them together.
You going out to win?
Well, I'm going out to do the best I can. I got a good team, but there's a lot of good teams in here. So I look for Keith Eiley to do real well, Ryan Anderson, Nathan Schroeder, Blake Frecking. I think those are the main top contenders of the race. But there's a lot of good teams, Colleen Wallen, and it's going to be a really good race.
With only minutes left before the race, the crowd gathers by Billy's Bar.
There'll be about 5,000 people here at the start line today for the start of the 36th John Beargrease Sled Dog Race. Man, I tell you, the anticipation and the energy is growing here at the Beargrease, and all these races, Bruce, you can just feel it as we get closer and closer. Now everybody starts to move a little bit faster. There's a little more stress. Right,
a little more dog noise.
Yeah,
in the background.
The dogs start to get heated up and warmed up and ready to go.
The dogs are so fired up they would need 8 TVs to hold them back. It's moments before they get to do what they're urging to do. Starting out with bib number 2, last year's champion, Blake Frecking.
With me, let's go, ladies and gentlemen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Goodbye, Blake. There's your defending champion.
And the first team's off on the trail. They're charging down the trail there, excited to get down this chute. There's a lot of enthusiasm and fans cheering them on here. You see those dogs just gobbling up that trail, one bounding leap after the next. These guys are going nuts, just charging down the trail there. I love watching this. You just see the big smiles on these dogs' faces as they go.
Before setting out on the trail, mushers make their game plan. We asked Blake about his strategy prior to the race.
So what's it like now on the first day of this race? Are you just trying to get to the next checkpoint as fast as you can?
No. I'm definitely not doing that. Yeah, so you'll see a lot of different strategies play out here, and that might be one of them for a few guys. And especially with the temps as warm as they are, I'm going to be taking it pretty easy and casual. And
so that means riding the brake, right?
Yeah, I'll be riding the brake, which a lot of people see us doing that out of here, and they think we're wasting a lot of energy doing it. But keeping them down in speed actually conserves a lot of that, and it also keeps their body temperature down because as they speed up, the respiratory rate increases and their body temp increases at the same time. So that's part of my rationale. So
these dogs are so excited to run. They're going to hit that trail and go 110%, right out of the gate, want to be charging down the trail. And as the musher, it's your job to help them bring that speed down, run a sustainable pace. Because we as the mushers know that this is going to be a 300-mile race, 470, whatever it is, kilometers. This is a long haul. We've got to take our time. The dogs don't necessarily know how long we're going to be out here. So they're relying on us, the musher, to help them set a pace and do what they can do the whole way. So the brake's the best way to do that. And, we know this from human athletes, marathoners. For every second you go faster than your ideal pace in the first half of a marathon, it's going to cost you 2 seconds in the second half of the marathon. So good race strategy is run a consistent pace, a pace your team can do from the beginning all the way to the finish.
The mushers that you see here make maneuvering 12 dogs look easy. But everyone must start somewhere. Our reporter got to try it for the first time.
If you crash, never let go.
So Blake, you gotta explain to me everything I need to know to take my first trip.
All right, so the most important thing is never to let the sled creep up on the dogs.
Okay.
So we use this drag to kind of keep our speed moderated, and this is for stopping. We have our snow hooks, and they are a parking brake.
Parking brake.
So we need to stop if you have to get off the sled and go forward.
Okay.
We set that in the snow.
It looks easy.
The important thing is...
It looks really easy, but I'm not too comfortable.
They never want to stop.
Okay.
So an important thing is, if you drop something behind you,
Yeah.
you never go backwards from the sled.
Okay.
Because if they pull this hook,
Yeah.
and they can if it's not the perfect snow conditions, they can pull the snow hook and they will not stop. They will
Okay.
And you're left.
And then I'm lost in the woods.
Yep.
Okay. I've done here. If I want to break, I pull this one here. I'm gonna try it,
You're
and
natural.
if I get lost, I'll thank you, everybody.
So we have directional commands for the leaders. So we say G to go right,
G. Okay.
and H to go left. And we
G
say
and
whoa. when we want
Whoa. That's
to. But they don't listen
Okay.
to that. If you crash, never let go of this.
Never let go of that.
Yes. Whenever you're ready.
It was really, really nice. And I might take 4 dogs next time.
We're 1 hour into the race. It's day 1.
We got Frecking out in lead, Messicott coming in right behind him there. There's a bit of a gap in there, but this is early in the race. As we heard one of the mushers say earlier, you're never going to win the race on the first day, but you can definitely lose the race on the first day by pushing a little too hard. Working back, we got Ailey in third, Jennifer Frecking.
It's actually mandatory for all mushers to carry gear in their sleds that would allow themselves to care for both themselves and their dogs if they're ever caught in a tough spot in the wilderness. Blake shows us some of that survival gear.
So this is a typical sled that we'd be using in our races, and for every race we have a certain amount of mandatory gear, and then we also bring extra gear depending on what we're carrying for dog care. So a typical sled load would consist of, first off, a cooker, and if we're camping, we're going to have pans for our dogs, fuel for our cookers. A sleeping bag is mandatory in most races, so I carry coats for the dogs, and if it's cold conditions, we might have them on while they're running, but we also may put them on while they're resting as well, so they can retain a little bit of that energy. Carry wrist straps, and we use that. It's a compressive wrap that we'll put on wrists, and that just keeps inflammation down. We carry extra booties for the runs upcoming. Most mushers will carry a cooler with dog food, and then for trail snacks that we would feed out on the trail between checkpoints, we would heat up water and put that with the meat, thaw it out, and feed that on the trail. Some races require snowshoes. We always have a first aid kit, so we have some ointments. Some are massage ointments, some are ointments for feet, and then also some wraps and some basic first aid gear for the dogs. An axe is required in most races. I carry a ski pole, and that's to assist the dogs as we go down the trail. Sometimes they'll be poling, and that is most of our mandatory gear required for races.
At the first checkpoint, Highway 2, the crowd are waiting in anticipation for the first musher in. But it turns out it's not Blake. He's been passed by Ryan Reddington. Reddington finished last year in 6th place. He's the former champ from 2018. And he's the great-grandson of Joe Reddington Sr., the founder of the even longer race, the Iditarod. So mushing runs in the veins of the Reddingtons.
it was a lot of fun. It was very uneventful, and the dogs ran really good. And it's nice being here and seeing everybody and seeing the teams coming in and the big crowd.
In second, Keith Eiley, running the B team of Reddington. Eiley is also a former champ at the Beargrease, but has retired and is therefore mushing Reddington's team. And the third team in is Blake Frecking.
We have our defending champion, Blake Frecking, with us now. Blake, so in your first 38, 40 miles, what was it like?
Went just as planned. It was warm, so we stopped a lot and let them eat snow and snacked and played, kept it pretty casual. So, yeah, just as planned, and everybody's doing good.
The mushers are rolling in and are making a wise decision in choosing to rest here. Rules are each musher must take a mandatory rest of 24 hours in total throughout the race.
So what I've seen today is all the teams have taken off from the start at Billy's Bar. They've traveled the 38-mile run over to Highway 2. Ryan Reddington was the first musher in there, moving at about 11.1 miles an hour, followed by Keith Eiley and Ryan Anderson, who both were near that 11-mile-an-hour mark. They're in the first checkpoint of Highway 2. Here we're going to see mushers take, for the most part, I would say 3 to 4 hour rest. A few of these guys have indicated that they might take a little bit less than that. This is going to depend largely on how their team is resting. Are they utilizing this resting time? Are they curled up sleeping? Or are they kind of just dozing? What exactly does their team need to get back on the trail? Tonight, they're going to take off. The sun's going to go down. It's going to be a cooler, faster trail. Most of the reports said it was a softer, squishy trail, making it a little more challenging for the dogs. They're going to start peeling out of here, and it's going to be about a 38-mile run to the next checkpoint, which is the Finland checkpoint.
Their Beargrease also consists of other classes than just the marathon. A mid-distance race, the Beargrease 120, which also travels through the rugged Sawtooth Mountains of the North Shore of Minnesota.
So these are 120-mile competitors coming into the first checkpoint there. And their race, obviously, a little bit shorter, so they tend to set a little bit faster pace, at least the ones that are trying to win this race. You know, this, like, again, we've talked about this before. I love the 8-dog class. I think it's a great class to have. It can be very, very competitive, and it makes a great segue for mushers to kind of go from a recreational mushing lifestyle, getting into a few races, to try out racing, see if it's for them, see if they enjoy it, see if that's what they want mushing to be about. And some of them will take the leap and keep working up the ranks. Some of them may stay at that 8-dog class level and be very competitive and race that seriously. Some of them might decide that, you know what, the stress of racing isn't worth it. It's more fun to be a recreational musher. So, but it is a good class to get people involved.
Among the 120-mile class, we meet Frank Moe, who just finished in 5th place. One of his dogs has a very special story.
No issues. All 8 finished well. The story, you know, around here is we've got Indy on the team, and Indy's a totally blind sled dog that lost his sight almost 4 years ago.
Here comes the extraordinary story of Indy. Close to the Canadian border is a place called Hovland. We find Frank Moe and his 43 dogs. Among the 43, a very special dog named Indy, a 7-year-old husky. Indy sees the world a little differently than his kennel mates do.
Well, we got Indy as a yearling from another kennel, and he was a superstar right away. You know, he made our team. He finished the Beargrease Marathon in 6th place. He finished other races in 2nd and 3rd place. You know, did really well. But when he was 2.5 at the end of that season, he lost his sight in one of his eyes, his left eye.
It turns out that Indy had lens luxation, a rare natural eye condition, and had to have his left eye removed.
He raced that next year with one eye and recovered pretty well. He had a buddy, Popcorn, that's a dog about his size that ran on his left, and so he trusted him, you know, and we ran them both in wheel, and they were very good together. At the end of that year, though, he lost sight in that other eye. So we were pretty heartbroken. Thought he was going to be one of our stars, and but we just gave him about a year to get used to being blind, because he he was very, you know, I mean, you lose your sight and then you're very unsure yourself. And after, you know, a few months, we started taking him for walks. And the next year we thought, you know, we're going to put him in the team with some of the older dogs and just see how he does. And he loved it. I mean, he stumbled and he had a difficult time doing it, but he was clearly happy doing it. You know, he wanted to be back with the team. Over the course of the next 2 years, he just got better and better. And last year we ran him in a couple short races, and he did really well. You know, he was a little nervous, but by the end he was just like, you know, I can do this. I was making a list of the best 12 dogs, and he was one of them. And so we said, well, yep, he's ready to race the Beargrease. He's on the team.
He may be blind, but his other senses are compensating for his loss of sight.
And it's amazing. His ears are angulated differently. You know, they're more forward than they were before. He also seems to pay a lot closer attention to the dogs around him, and he gets cues from them about what's coming. So if the dog in front of him dips like a dip is coming in the trail, he senses that and prepares himself for it. He's taken up the rest of, you know, the senses he would get from his vision. His other senses have taken over.
Indy's blindness quickly created distance between he and his teammates.
It's pretty cruel, but they don't like an injured dog. You know, they'll attack it, or they don't act normally around it. But he has shown now this year that he's really not an injured dog. So it's interesting to see how the dogs have changed now. And he's an alpha dog. You know, the other dogs just kind of leave him alone.
The long journey back to racing has been a difficult one for Indy.
I mean, we spent a lot of extra time training him, you know. But now it's nothing. It's the same. I mean, it's, you know, we spend a lot of time with all of our dogs, and I don't have to treat him any differently now than I do any of the others.
Frank and his wife were faced with a very difficult decision. Was it best for Indy to live a life without sight? An answer that was inspired by the unique qualities of this dog named Indy.
But, you know, he's ours, and we love him, and we just want to see if we can help him to be the best dog he can be. And just so happens that best dog means he's on our main race team now. There's no favorites. We love them all the same. Yes. You like it too, don't you? Yes, you do.
The mushers have kept moving throughout the night. They're now resting at Sawbill, the third checkpoint. Ryan Anderson, a 3-time former champion of Beargrease, thinks it's going too fast.
We had a good run over here. Maybe a little too good last night, actually. So
Too fast, you meaning?
yeah, the dogs were charging pretty hard, and it was hard to slow them down. So it's trying to balance speed with them driving too hard. So with the amount of rest we get, they just end up wanting to go faster and faster.
Ryan had the fastest run time on this last section of the race. He was, you know, according to this posting, 13.3 miles an hour, 3 minutes faster than Ryan Reddington. What he means when you have too good of a run, there's a saying in mushing that your best run follows your worst run, and your worst run follows your best run. And what that means is your worst run, it seems like the dogs are just kind of taking it easy, slogging down the trail, but that means that they're not tiring out their body. So you have what you feel like is a bad run, and the next time they take off like a bullet because they're rested.
It's early in the second day of the race, and the first mushers are about to head out from Sawbill. Colleen Wallen is the first musher in line.
This is her 21st Beargrease, and she's never left Sawbill checkpoint in first place. So this is an exciting moment for her. Are you excited? You're leaving here in first.
Let's do it. All right, guys, let's go.
Ryan Reddington.
What we see here is we got Colleen Wallen out in front still. She was the first one out of the checkpoint there. Still has the lead, but that lead is starting to shrink. Behind her, we have Massacott, Ryan Reddington, who has made up about 6.2 kilometers in distance on Wallen since they left the last checkpoint of Sawbill. She's way out in front here. The big difference with Wallen is the total number of hours of rest that she has taken. She's taken significantly less rest than some of the competitors. I think it's unlikely that she would be overtaken, but it is certainly possible. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we're going to see Colleen first into Trail Center, but I'm going to guess that Reddington and Anderson and probably Keith Ailey will be fairly close behind her by the time they reach the checkpoint.
It's an absolutely beautiful setting here. So far, it might be my favorite spot on this trail, and you can see the lake behind me and the Good Luck Musher sign there. This is where they'll enter the checkpoint and they'll come across this beautiful lake. And last time I saw the tractor, it looked like Colleen Wallen was still in the lead. She's having a fantastic race.
If you look at times and just speed, Ryan Reddington is about 20 minutes ahead. And that's more of a factor in this race. 20 minutes in, say, the Yukon Quest wouldn't be a big deal because they're not caught in this mandatory 24 hours of rest period. So a little bit of speed matters. We're going to know more about speed, in my opinion, once they arrive here with the hills and then that 20-mile flat section. But typically, that starts giving you an indication of who's really going to be there. I will say that when you and I watched them leave the last checkpoint, there's no doubt that Ryan Anderson's team was wound and really smooth, really looked good. Ryan Reddington's are running a little faster, but they moved out a little slower. But, they get going 5 miles. That can all change.
And Dallas's predictions are right. Colleen holds on to the lead and comes in first to the 4th checkpoint, called Trail Center.
She had left the previous checkpoint of Sawbill in first, and she held on to that lead all the way to the next checkpoint over the longest run there. However, she gave up a lot of time. This run took her about 5 hours and 32 minutes, which is thus far the longest run time we have out here. Nice looking team. They came into the checkpoint. Everybody's happy, cruising along, but a little bit slower pace over this last run.
Colleen Wallen is an experienced musher who entered her first competition, the shorter Beargrease 100-mile race back in 1995. Since then, she's progressed to the marathon class.
For me personally, I think having that history is really important. Having mushers that have been in there year after year after year, I think it says 2 things. One, it says it's a great race. It's something that they enjoy coming back to every year. And another thing, it says mushing's really addicting. It's something that once you get into it, and just the lifestyle is so engaging. Living with dogs, working with dogs every day, it's an amazing lifestyle. So you see these people in there for lifetimes, and I think it's great for the race to have them.
It's a real passion, but this is interesting as well because it reminds us that you could be 18 years old or you can be 70 years old to do the same race, and there are male and females in the same class. We don't have separate classes, so you can meet your grandmother on the trail.
But is it any difference of men and women?
First of all, women have been winning all the long-distance races in the world. So women do win these races.
Personally, I think there's almost no difference between men and women in the racing because it's not a physical game for the person. Yes, it is physically challenging, but the women and men are both able to do it. Obviously, they've won all the races. So I don't think there's a big difference because when I look at my job as a musher, my job is to be a caregiver. I'm taking care of a team of dogs, making sure that they're able to do their job. The dogs are the real athletes here. So I don't think it makes any difference if you're male or female and your ability to care for the team and support the team. So I don't see a difference between male and female as far as the musher is concerned, as long as they're a good caregiver and are able to provide what the dogs need right now.
Not far behind comes Ryan Reddington in 2nd place. 3rd is Canadian musher Martin Massacatti, followed by Anderson. Blake Frecking has fallen behind, now in 7th place.
Blake, how was the run?
Good.
Was it good?
Kind of slow.
Yeah.
But I think that was probably the case for everybody at Ahmed.
Getting into the checkpoint, the run times reveal that Reddington has stepped up his game.
I think he's got the fastest team on the trail right now. The question is that too fast? Is that a speed that he can hold for the whole way? We're only halfway now.
Last year, Ryan Reddington had a significant lead. In the last checkpoint, called Mineral Center, he was 2 hours ahead of everyone. But at the last leg, his dogs needed more rest, so he ended up in 6th place. As we move into the last third of the race, will he uphold this speed, or will history repeat itself?
I think my team is looking really good. I'm very, very happy with them. We got a lot of good training this year, a lot of good snow, and we're ready. Beargrease is so much fun. It's a tough race with the hills. It's a lot of good competition, but the Minnesota people is really great, outstanding, and it's a race that the handlers are more involved, because it's handler assisted. So it's fun to have more family and involved with the race instead of races in Alaska where they help you get to the starting line and then they don't see you until the finish line.
This is the wife of Ryan Reddington, Erin, and so you've been here and you've got everything prepared for him, Erin. So first of all, talk about the investment. I know your family very invested in this, but give us a sense of how all-encompassing something like being a musher is for a family.
Yeah, no, it's a lifestyle. It's not a hobby. It's not like any other sport. You can't put your equipment away. Your dogs are with you all the time. And you prepare all year long for the races that you do.
It does take a large group of people to help you get a team ready. And I think that's important. So on this race, you actually see those people because they're out there handling, they're out there helping. But there's always a big crowd behind the scenes that are helping to get this team to the starting line. It does take a village to field a dog team.
The mushers are in their 3rd day of the race, and they've traveled 230 miles. The distance to the finish keeps shrinking.
Getting into the exciting part of this race as we close in on the final hours.
The race is moving towards the 6th and last checkpoint. Ryan Reddington has taken the lead with Keith Eiley in close pursuit.
This is time to start focusing on actually getting to the finish line as quickly as possible. The final third is about closing the deal, getting to the finish line. If your goal is to win it, then trying to get there first, or more realistically, as quick as your team is capable of. There is a gap between our first 2 mushers, then the second 2 mushers, and then there's a fairly good gap going back from there.
First into Mineral Center is Ryan Reddington. 1 year ago, he was also leading at this point.
So while Ryan Reddington has a commanding lead, as last year is evidence of, everything can still change.
You got in here in the lead last year with a 2-hour lead, and you didn't win, right? And I know it's probably one of the more frustrating runs of your entire life. And so take us back there last year. What happened, and how do you ensure that it doesn't happen again this year? And is it in your mind at all?
Well, not really on my mind too much because there's only one dog in the team from last year. And but yeah, I had a couple dogs that were that wanted some more rest, so we gave them more rest out on the trail, and I don't look for that this year to happen.
So on this next run, if Keith is able to close the gap, how does this happen going to the finish line?
I've been saying it all year to my handlers and my family that I'm worried about that team. And Manny's looking like he's doing a really good job with them.
Second is Keith Eiley, chasing the A-team with dogs from the same kennel.
I'm seeing a lot of happy dogs, smiling faces. They're in a good position right now. A very nice looking dog team here. I like seeing perky dogs, wagging tails. You see the handlers are having to hold pretty hard here. The mushers got both feet on the brake. This is not a tired dog team. This is a team that's ready to keep on trucking.
Man, you're in position to win a dog race.
It's a little bit too much distance maybe, but I'll still be trying.
And so if it comes down to a foot race between you and Ryan, are you willing to get off the sled and run to Grand Portage?
Oh, yeah, he knows that too. We've raced quite a few times together, and we're pretty equal on who's won and who's lost when we raced each other. So he knows if I'm close, we'll be racing.
And so Bruce has been talking about your lead dog, the little white one. Tell us about it.
Oh, that big white one.
It's a big white one.
Yeah, that's an unusual dog, but it's one heck of a leader. His name is Splint. I bred that dog, but it should be running a dirt rod with him this year.
If Keith has taken care of all of his rest, they could be leaving here almost side by side.
It's going to be right down to the finish. You're not really going to know who's going to win this thing till right at the end.
It could go either way right now, right? Yes, it could be a fight for the victory. That's definitely possible. There's a 30-minute gap between first and second, approximately. That's certainly a time that can be overcome. That's not unlikely.
In third is Ryan Anderson.
It's a good dog team. It's probably one of the best dog teams I've ever had. But, you know, it either comes together or it doesn't. Yeah. So it's a dog race.
It takes years to prepare for a dog race. Many mushers have their own breeding programs in order to make a great dog team. Blake Frecking will tell us more about his.
In building a team, you have certain essential components like trust and respect and those things. I can't just say, I'm the alpha dog, guys. This is the way it's going to be. You have to earn that trust. Good boy. If you keep building and building and building and never break that trust, they'll do anything for you. And just like a human, once you do something that does kind of break their trust or break their faith in you, you don't get that back. I mean, you can earn some trust back, you can earn some respect back, but it's probably not going to be the same. With our puppies, it's different because it starts at such a young age. It's essentially at birth. You know, we're working with these puppies and, you know, after a while, you know, they can smell us, they can hear us, they can see us after a couple weeks. And at that point, their mother is the nucleus of their world, and we're just kind of this outside component. But after a few weeks, you know, we start bringing them into the house, and now we're that familiar component that they can kind of bond with and look to you as that safety place. You know, then we start doing adventures out in the woods, and they're seeing the world as this great big place, and again, now we're that familiar thing to them. And I think that's a big part with building them from the very beginning, to have, you know, that kind of trust, and we just build on that. Most of the dogs we've raised and trained ourselves here at our kennel, but this is a group that was born in another kennel, and I'm helping them train up for some future Iditarod races. So these guys are mostly 2- and 3-year-olds. A lot of these guys have only done 17-mile runs prior to coming here. Most of them have never run a race, so it's a group of rookies, and we're pulling them together, and they're looking great at this point, so couldn't be happier with the group. You know, we started out, you know, just doing a lot of this kind of work, just free running and socializing and getting them to get accustomed to one another. You know, it allows them to play around and be dogs in a little different atmosphere than when we're hooking up. There's a little more stress and a little more pressure to drive forward, and that natural instinct for them to drive kicks in as well. You know, one of the things we're always striving for is, you know, never ask more than what they can give you. And, you know, just keeping an upbeat attitude, they feed off of us. You know, how we're feeling is how they're feeling. And they know when we're faking it. So you have to be real and always be upbeat, and they follow along.
We're at Grand Portage at the finish line, Bruce, and at the last check on the track. And, of course, we've talked at our last checkpoint there in Mineral City about Ryan Reddington was in position to win the race last year, had a really bad run, one of the worst runs, I think, of probably his mushing career on his way to the finish line, and he didn't get here first.
This is the place that happened before, but he's got a totally different team on a totally different type of trail. So you're not going to be haunted by those ghosts. You're going to be committed to doing the best job that you can.
Reddington has learned his lesson from the last year. He's preserved enough energy in his team to endure the entire trail, all the way to the finish line.
Here we see Mushroom coming over the hill. There we go. That is Ryan Reddington. Got some dog teams charging along here. Nice little gaits, even paces there. Ryan's pedaling alongside the sled here. I think this is one of the first times we've gotten to see mushers kind of helping the dogs out with that kicking stride. Team's cruising around the corner here. They're making a nice show. He's cruising in. He's about to get his second Beargrease victory here.
And in the end, Ryan Reddington takes home the title of champion in the 2020 John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon. He crosses the finish line at 4:36 p.m. in Grand Portage with a total trail time of 28 hours and 8 minutes. This is Reddington's second Beargrease title. He crossed the finish line with 7 dogs standing in his team, including his lead dogs, Ghost and Henry.
What a great race. Tough, a lot of hills, but it's a lot of fun.
So talk about the pride that you feel. You've won another Beargrease. This is 2 out of the last 3 years. You get here first, and your dogs did a tremendous job.
Yeah, I'm proud of a lot of pride with how things went. It's a fast race, but it's hilly too. So we try to keep them happy and healthy and have the most fun we can.
Second place goes to Keith Eiley from Ray, Minnesota, with a time of 29 hours, 22 minutes. Eiley runs a team from Reddington's kennel.
Looks like he's going to have a strong second place finish here, not too far behind Ryan Reddington.
And Keith Eiley, wearing bib number 6, has arrived at the finish line. Wow, second place. Tell us about the dog team. You got to be feeling really good about them.
Yeah, I'm really happy with them. It was a fun 300 miles. The trail was a little soft, but just slowed things down a bit. But no, dog team was running great. Managed them good, and you could see it at the end. I did all I could, you know what I mean? I can only allow them to go so fast down the hills on the flats so I don't injure anybody and keep everybody healthy. So that's all I could do.
Can you go back to a moment or a decision that resulted in you not getting here before Ryan?
Oh, yeah. I thought about that on the run in here, and there was a few things I could have done differently, like maybe running a different leader in certain legs. Okay. And another thing I did, too, is there was 2 spots that I put a little bit too much food in the dogs. That slowed them down, and that's a big time on the run. So, yeah, there's a few things. I easily probably could have got here at least half hour sooner if I wouldn't have made those mistakes. But even after 30 years, I'm still learning stuff all the time.
I was looking behind my shoulders for Keith here. I know he was pushing hard, and it was just a few minutes now that he came in behind me, so he gained a lot there. But, yeah, it turned out good, though.
In third, Minnesota native, Ryan Anderson.
And there we have our third place musher across the finish line. There's Ryan Anderson.
It's a nice team.
Yeah, beautiful.
They roll, they move nice, and they're strong. So,
and the pride you feel about getting a team to this finish line looking that good.
The way they started and the way they finished is unbelievable. So I feel good about that. Just managing what I had in front of me at the time. Unfortunately, it didn't play out in the race the way I wanted, but that's the way it goes.
First race of the Krill Pet Arctic World Series here. I think this has been a very successful race. Nice looking teams. I'm really proud of how these mushers have conducted this race, managing their teams, managing their energy, both the humans and the dogs. Everybody's looking like they could go out and do many more miles here. That's what you want to see at a finish of the race. These dogs just ran 300 miles. And they're charging across the finish line. They accrued 24 hours of rest while out on the trail. And this is what these guys are bred to do, and they're loving every step of it. It is an amazing creature, the Alaskan Husky, the sled dog, what they can do out here. It's really quite impressive.
We have our top 3 mushers in for this historic event. The 36th Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon is coming to an end. By keeping the tradition alive, the great accomplishment of the winter mailman John Beargrease is not forgotten.
That it wasn't that long ago that sled dogs were the ones that were hauling the freight, hauling the mail, keeping communities in touch. And later, roads get developed, telegraph lines get put in, airplanes advance to where they can now fly in 40 below, and the dog teams start going extinct because there's not the need. And that's where sled dog racing came about, was to keep this culture and history alive. And we see it alive and well in Duluth, Minnesota now.
Next up, the second race of the Krill Pet Arctic World Series will move across the Atlantic to Norway and the small mining town of Røros. It will be rough.
She's got a little bit of problem. Oh, she's loose.
And the beautiful weather will soon change into a blizzard. As we'll witness the glorious moments, the legends.
It's my race.
And all the obstacles along the way.
The whole team got diarrhea on this.
This is the world's largest sled dog race in the numbers of mushers and dog teams attending. And when you see the picturesque landscape, you'll know why. Thanks for now from Minnesota. We will see you in Norway.